From Anshe Sfard Beth El Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Parshat Beshalach, the secret name of God. Right there in the middle of Parshat Beshalach, we have a secret name of God. How's that? There are 3 verses that talk about the angel of God coming in front of the Jewish camp, and he stood behind them, and the cloud came and protected the Jews, and protected between the Jews and the Egyptians, and it lit up the night, and then Moshe took his hand and he put it over the sea, and with a great wind, it made the land to be dry, and the sea split. Those 3 verses, all, strangely enough, have 72 verses. 72 letters. If you take each letter and you do the following: the first letter of the first verse, the last letter of the second verse, and the first letter of the third verse, you get to a name of God. And therefore you have 72 such 3-letter names of God. And with that, you have the special 72-letter name of God. There are various charts. You can get them on the internet. Here they have in the Torah Shlema. He has it in essay number 3 and the Miluim on Parshat Beshalach. And there you can see the whole chart of all these different secret names. Now the Rambam, who's not that type of mystic, he really was very much against using different names for things. But he said, let me explain something. There may be great meaning to each one of these names, these seemingly nonsensical words that come together from the 72 configurations, but this is not the ineffable name. The ineffable name of God is simply the Tetragrammaton. How you pronounce the Tetragrammaton, that's anybody's guess. We don't have a tradition, but at least I don't. But it's not the 72-letter name. As a matter of fact, the Rambam says, how can a 72-letter name, how can 72 little 3-letter words together be a name? It's not a name. So he rejects. However, the Rabbeinu Bachye, who is more of a Spanish kind of mystic, northern Spain, student of the Ramban, he says, no, these are the ineffable names. There's a 42-letter name of God found in the Ana B'Koach prayer. If you look in your siddur, that prayer is an acrostic of the 42-letter name of God. And there's a 72-letter name of God, and these are the ineffable names of God also. Little debate. Now, these secret names come up particularly in Rashi, in Talmud. Talmud says that on Sukkot, we pray to God in a strange language. We say, Ani v'ho Hoshiana. Ani and ho. Ani, me, I should save myself. Ho, well, what's ho? What does that mean? So Rambam says, no, it's not ho, it's who. Ani v'hu. Me and God together, we're going to save the Jews. But what does it mean? He says, no. Rashi says, don't try to figure out what it means. These are the 2 names of the 72 names of God, based on this verse in these 3 verses, this week's parsha. Now, why 72? The Zohar Chadash says, well, we're going to have to serve 72 different nations as Jews, and then this name will eventually save us from these 72 nations. The Ramban mentions that this name is very powerful. With using this name, you can destroy others. You can do very serious things. In fact, some say that the 42-letter name of God was used to smite the Egyptian. Moses didn't lift a finger to the Egyptian; rather, he used the ineffable 42-letter name, the 42 name of God, and that's what got him. Or that Elisha, the prophet, student of Eliyahu Navi, that when he smote those boys who were making fun of him, he also used the 42-letter name of God. These are powerful names that have that kind of power. After all, it comes from the splitting of the sea, one of the most powerful things we ever saw. Now, the Sefer Aziel Malach, mystical work, claims that the 72 letters, 72 names, allude to the 72 letters in the names of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Shivtei, and also Ruvain, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, all the tribes. So all the Jews are related to the ineffable name of God. God's name is related to to the Jews. After all, Yisrael, our name has God's name in it as well. The Orchos Chaim says that the reason that medieval Jews would use three-letter yuds, to designate God's name in a book is not because they don't want to write God's name. In fact, that's one of the 72 names. Well, if you look at the chart, if you do the math and you do the work with those verses, you'll see that Yud, 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 triple Yud, is one of the secret names of God. The Sefer Rokeach says that he was a medieval mystic. He said that these names are so holy that you should not mention these names unless you went to a mikveh, immerse yourself in the mikveh, or you poured 3 buckets of water on yourself, the Tisha Kab, an official measure of water, and he has a whole calculation why that measure is so important. That's how holy it is. The Rambam alludes to something like that and says, no, it's not true. You don't have to go to the mikveh for these names. These are not names of God. They're very mystical, but they're not the official name of God. There was another manuscript work which the Torah Shlema of Kasher brings, where he says that that there's a custom in ancient times, medieval times, that they would not read this week when they get to these 3 verses, they would read them softly, because after all, it's the ineffable name of God. Also in a siddur that was found in manuscript, it says that anybody who recites these verses will not be damaged, will not be harmed. So if you're a mystic, say these 3 verses every day, you'll be in good shape. Now the question is, why do we specifically invoke these names, Ani Vaho, 2 of the names, on Sukkot? Now, firstly, why these 2? So it's interesting to note that these names are the first and the middle name. There's no actual middle because 72 doesn't have a middle, but it's the 37th, it's sort of the middle of the names of God. And in that way, we invoke the first and the middle. It's like we're invoking the whole 72-letter name of God to save us at Sukkot. But why now do we use that special name? We never use that name. So the Chizkuni, one of the medieval French commentators, says, is that the reason we use it is that the Sukkot is all about rain. We're judged for rain on Sukkot. And the lulav is all about rain, because the lulav comes from water. All plants do. So when we pray on Sukkot, we don't say it, but the secret is that we're really praying for rain. Not for rain on Sukkot. We don't want it to rain on Sukkot. We want it to rain after Sukkot. For the rainy season, when the rainy season should be a good season. So how do we pray for rain? We pray using the name that Moses used to split the sea, because miracles happen with water. So we pray using the water name of God, and that's why we use that particular name. The Torah Mor says, I'll tell you why there's such power to these verses, because you have 3 verses. And the Zohar says that 1 verse corresponds to Avraham, kindness, 1 verse to Yitzchak, judgment, and the 3rd verse to Yaakov, which is, again, some sort of kindness as well. So what's our job? Our job is to mix the 2. By putting the 3 verses together and the 3 names together, we're mixing judgment, which is part of God's attributes, and mercy, another attribute. And it's the mixing of those 2 that's the most powerful thing. In fact, you might interpret like this. How are the Jews saved at splitting the sea? After all, God's giving judgment to the Egyptians and mercy on the Jews. And one might have argued that he should have judgment against the Jews because the Jews were idol worshippers in Egypt. So the answer is that there had to be a mixture of judgment and mercy in order to save the Jews and destroy the Egyptians. Now, so if you think about it, the special name of God is found particularly at this highlight moment of splitting the sea. The idea that God can turn something, the sea itself can be turned, that he could invert creation. In creation, there was the land and there was sea, and he could turn a piece of sea to land. That this inversion of nature is one of the great powers of God, and therefore this name reflects that special power of God. That's why perhaps it's so mystical, so secret, so special, and we're privileged to be able to read it this coming Shabbos. Thank you for joining us here at the Anshe Sefard Beth El Congregation for our discussion of Parshat Beshalach. Join us each week for a discussion of the Parsha and the holidays. And thanks to Jason Lefkowitz, our producer. Thank you.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein. To learn more, visit asb.org.